Hi again, it's Lorraine here. Today I want to talk about this idea of manifesting. What does that mean? Manifesting means bringing forth, creating your reality. Now, I grew up in a very religious household, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. We prayed a lot. Our prayers were rote. And while there's nothing wrong with that, it enriched my life substantially and really gave me a solid foundation for who I am. And I came to realize, though, that those rote prayers really depend on someone else, another being, doing something for me, giving me something, allowing me to be something else. And that, as I learned, it was dependent on whether or not that being, God, found favor with me and blessed me with something, or didn't find favor with me because I did something wrong, I wasn't enough, I didn't have it together, and punished me, right? And I've come to learn that, or to believe that none of that really is true. I am always in God's favor, and I have been given free will, and I was born with the ability to design and create my own life. So part of the problem that I have with traditional religion as it stands is, if I believed that God gave me whatever I had in my life and took away whatever I had in my life and found favor with me or didn't find favor with me, if something tragic happened in my life, as it did when I lost my brother when we were teenagers, he was killed in a tragic car accident. It made sense to blame God. Why did you allow this to happen? How could this, why did you take him away? Today, I realize that that's not the case. It wasn't that God took him away. None of us were punished by that. He wasn't punished by being killed. These are just things that happen in the world. And I do have the ability to create my own life. Anytime we're faced with adversity, we have the ability to create peace around that. Or we have the ability to create chaos and craziness around that. And believe me, I've done both in my life. But I choose to be in a place of positivity and a place of calmness because I want to manifest more of that. I want to manifest more calm, more positivity. I want to manifest just the best life possible. And it starts with my thought process, and it starts with my emotional state of being. And so I bring that with me into the decisions that I make and into creating the possibilities that are out there. So I want to share something with you that I've learned. I've learned this pretty recently. It's this whole idea of string theory. And you can look it up, of course. So it comes in with this whole research on quantum physics. So when you get beyond everything you can see in a microscope, it turns out if you could get beyond everything you can see, like on this frame, for example, you would see a bunch of empty space in there. There's empty space in all matter. And I believe it's in the unseen where potentiality exists. So we have the ability, through our thought process and our intentions, to manifest, to have this unseen form and show up as different things in our physical world. So I want to go back to this idea of string theory. When we get beyond everything that we can see, even with the most powerful microscopes, we get to a place where there's just emptiness, or what appears to be emptiness. Of course, there must be something to it, because it holds all other things together. All the physical together somehow is held within this emptiness. It's all the molecules that are held together that form my computer, that form this chair I'm sitting on, that form this frame. It's just that they're held together differently, which gives them a different composition. So apparently, when we get beyond everything we can see, and even beyond the quarks, which are the smallest particles that we're able to see, there's a theory that we have these things called strings, and they're really just a filament, kind of a filament, and they vibrate. So my thought is, if they vibrate in one certain way and in a certain pattern, it may show up as a softball. If they vibrate at a certain pattern, it may show up as a computer. If it vibrates in a certain pattern, it may be a bed. We can influence the vibration of those filaments. And it's my thought that when with our consciousness, which is our thought process, and even beyond that, it is our thought process, but our intention. See, we can think things, but then we also can have an intention about it. The intention is kind of the energy beyond the thought. And it's that intention that then sets things into motion, that then begins to generate an outcome that we see on our physical plane. Now, I believe that it's through that thought process and that intention, and intention is another word for prayer. We know that if we pray for something, if we meditate on, think about, have an intention about somebody feeling better, they will feel better. A lot of times that happens, right? There are now many studies on prayer, on the power of prayer, and books written on it. There was a study done in University of, I think it was University of Texas, years ago. I remember reading this, where they conducted some research on the power of intention, and what they did was they took plants. They isolated some plants and just gave the plants water and sunlight. Another set of plants, they gave water, sunlight, fertilizer. And the next set of plants, the third set of plants, they gave water, sunlight, and prayer, and asked people to pray for them. Now, the people that were praying didn't know which set of plants they were praying for, so there was some control in this research project. And what they found at the end of it was the plants that received the prayer actually did better than the plants that received the fertilizer, and did better than the plants that only received the water and the sunlight. So that particular research project has been replicated with similar outcomes. And Lynn McTaggart has done a lot of work on the field, what she calls the field, what I call the unseen. And she conducts projects regularly with groups of people who pray for, hold an intention for the healing of some places or for peace in some places. And her work has shown that when groups of people hold an intention for certain places, I believe this is one of Lynn's research projects, was I know there was a project conducted where people just held the intention for peace in Washington, D.C. And they did it over a period of days. And what they found was during the time that this research project was going on, during the time that people were holding the intention of peace for Washington, D.C., during those days, the crime statistics went down. So we know that human emotion, human thought, and really with intention, what we're doing is we're energizing a thought with some emotion. Because generally when we have an intention, we are infusing an emotion into that. And it's really our emotions, the energy, right, in motion, which is emotion. And I didn't coin that, I got that from somebody someplace, but it's the energy of it that starts to then formulate things, formulate outcomes in our lives. We co-create all the time. We currently are in a state of flux in our country, maybe all over the world, we could say, to some degree or another. There's a lot of fear, there's a lot of anger, there's anxiety about what's going on. We are co-creating that, and every time we buy into that, we are co-creating more of it. How do we change it? I say unplug from all of that, unplug from it. I've had to change the channels that I watch so that I'm not bombarded by that energy. Do I still get some of it? Yeah, I do. And would I like to unplug from it completely? Yes, and I will at some point. But I've stepped away from a lot of it because I realize that not only do I co-create it with everyone else in the world for these outcomes that I'm not particularly happy with, but I can also isolate and create some of those outcomes for myself that generate more fear, more anger, more anxiety, more disgust. So, and I don't want to bring that into my world, so I step away from it. So if you're somebody who's really angry with politicians and you are reposting that anger, then understand that you're energizing that to some degree. So I say, step away from that and repost things that feed your spirit, that make your soul sing. Repost things that are happy. Repost doggies rolling in the mud. Repost those things that just make you feel happy and plug into those things. There's a lot of that out there. You know, sometimes I hear people say, oh, this world is going, to hell in a handbasket. Everybody's angry. Nobody even smiles when I go to the store. I'm going to have to fix my car now. It's going to cost me a lot of money. Understand that by plugging into all the angry things, we are generating and creating those things to happen in our lives. Subsequently, if we step away from that, you have people saying, oh my gosh, I just got a check for $1,000 in my mail. Or, oh, this old friend called me. Or guess what? I'm getting married soon. Do you see the difference in both of those? I used to teach psychology, and I would talk about state dependence, right? There's a better word for that. It's not coming to me right now. But essentially, the idea behind it is that there's this congruency between where we're at in the moment and what we see out in the world. And I would talk about, you've got two people walking down the road. One of them says, oh geez, look at all the weeds. And oh my gosh, it looks like it's going to rain. And look at the cracks on that building. It looks awful. They should paint it. And you've got the other person who says, oh my gosh, those are the most beautiful flowers growing. And oh, I love that there's a silver lining on that cloud. Or more than that, oh, look at the sun. It's a beautiful day. That sun is so bright. Or maybe that says, I love the color of that building. You can already tell just from what I've discussed here today what one person is going to attract into their life versus what the other person's going to attract into their life. The beauty of it is that we're never set in one condition or the other. We have the ability to change that for ourselves, to pivot out of one feeling state into another feeling state. And how do we do that? We do that by putting our attention on the things that make us feel better. We do that by being grateful for all the wonderful things that are happening in our lives. And there are wonderful things to focus on. All right, if you like this video, please like it down at the bottom. Subscribe to my channel so that you can get more of it, because I have plenty more videos to do on the law of attraction and creating your best life and manifesting. We're going to talk more about how do we manifest? How do we use this power for creating that we were given at birth by God, by our own creator, by the infinite? And how do we use that to create our best outcomes and live the life of our dreams? Because it is very possible and probable to do that. We just have to learn how to do it, because we're not taught this at birth. As children, most of us are scolded for things. We're not born into this world, most of us, being told that we are these creative beings and we can shape our reality to have a life where we thrive. That's a message that we weren't given at birth, but that's my message for you. And more than that, I'm going to hold your hand and walk you through some of it. So thanks for joining me here today. Namaste, and share your light.